Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about leaving some mystery in your games. I almost called this building a mystery, and then I was going to have a guitar and an Ankh necklace, and I was going to do that Sarah McLachlan song I know you're thinking of. But let's just say that it didn't test well with the focus group, and it would leave me open to copyright disputes. So you're getting leaving a mystery. And what do I mean by that? This is something that's come up in a lot of my videos, and it came up recently in my Fallout, non-expository Fallout lore, I'll link below, and the Arcanum one, which I'll link below. But what I mean by that is, don't feel like you need to address every question the player might have. In Fallout, we didn't address what Herald was. We didn't need to, wasn't important to the story, isn't important to the setting. It's a fun mystery. We didn't address it. Maybe we will later. Maybe we never will. Maybe Harold doesn't know himself. Actually, for sure, Harold doesn't know himself. In the Arcanum one, everybody wants to know what happened on Half Ogre Island, how that got resolved. Which I always say, A, not my quest. B, not the worst thing that got discussed about things that happened in the Arcanum world. But also, having that quest unfinished was kind of a lesson from the Arcanum world itself, which is, guess what? The people who have money and power don't answer to you. They don't answer to anybody. It's kind of a theme in a lot of my games. There's a video about my game's theme, common theme. But what I think most is important if you're making a game is leaving some mystery in your game, which of course means that there's no exposition anywhere in your game by an NPC or a cinematic, or there's not a book lying around or a computer log entry that explains it. The team may know the answer, but it's not addressed in the game. The reason the team knows is you want to make sure they don't put anything contradictory. You don't end up with, because you never talked about it, one person has an NPC say one thing and another person has an NPC say another, and then obviously one of them is wrong, maybe both of them are wrong, but maybe you just don't want to address it. Maybe it's something you just don't directly want to have your game go into. If there's content in the game that's made assuming an answer, then that's what I mean by a non-expository lore. So that can be a mystery that there's a lot of evidence in the game that will let the player believe they know what happened, but you never directly tell them. That's one kind of mystery you can do. And it's a mystery I like, and that's why I made videos about all the non-expository lore in Fallout and Arcanum. But there's another way to do it too, which is just not develop the lore. It's completely undeveloped. The team doesn't know, the game never mentions it, and the players will never be able to find out in this game. And this could be anything from, hey, this weird creature, where did it come from? It hasn't always been around. Where has it come from? Not going to address it. At least not in this game. An NPC sends you out for an item. Why do they want the item? Don't worry about it. They're going to pay you. Don't worry about why they want the item. Maybe it'll be important in a sequel. Maybe it won't. Maybe you're going to go up against a villain, and one option is you tell the villain, look, instead of me killing you, just leave. Maybe it's a combat intimidation thing. Maybe it's a dialogue thing. Doesn't matter. So the villain leaves. Where'd they go? Game's not going to follow up on that. Maybe that'll be important in a sequel. Maybe the villain goes one country over and starts their reign of terror all over again. Maybe you never find out. That brings me to the map. Your map, you can have a big open world in your game or not, but your game will focus on the map. What are in all the adjoining countries? You don't have to get into that. Are there any other continents? You don't have to get into that. And by the way, even on the map you have, it's okay to leave some blank areas in there. Maybe there's a bunch of mountains and the player can't get past it, even though on the map it shows maybe there's a river over there. It's okay to have blank spots on your map that you can address later. In fact, the whole point of making these mysteries, and that's why I made a video called Planning for a Sequel, The reason you want to put mysteries in your base game is so that you can address them in later expansions and DLC and in sequels. The whole point of having unexplored lore is so that you can explore it later. It's the reason you literally want to tell some of your narrative designers, pull back on that, leave that open, and it's okay. Some people won't want to do that. They're like, no, I want to wrap this up and neat as a pin. But the problem here is you need other areas of the game to be explored. So leaving open some areas to explore later on in a later game is a good thing. And also, when I mentioned sequels, I didn't mean that as literally, because you could make a sequel that comes before. I guess everyone will call that a prequel. But if you want to make the second game be, here's what was going on in this country before the player came, before the war started, before the dragons ravaged it, whatever, that might be a fun sequel. You might also want to make a contemporaneous game where, like, oh, we explored everything that was going on in this country because of the war or the dragons or that necromancer who was ravaging it. Guess what was happening over here in this other country nearby at the same time? Now, the first game may have mentioned caravans going to that country, or there may have been NPCs who fled from that country because something was going on there. That's okay. You can keep that vague, and then when you make the sequel that's set in that country, you can suddenly talk about, oh, well, they were having like a magipocalypse, or magic was going crazy, or something was happening over there. It doesn't contradict anything. The caravan people said it's really rough running caravans through that country, and the people fleeing were like, I'm a refugee, things were crazy there. As long as what you keep it relatively vague, you can have all kinds of fun stuff happen in the sequel in that other country. What I just said about countries could be true for factions. You could make another game about a faction that either wasn't well developed or only mentioned in passing in your first game, and then you're like, I'm going to dive into that faction more. Or you could make a game set in a completely different biome. So now you're like, okay, we had a deserty area in the first game. Let's do forests. Let's do snow. Let's do mountains, because it's fun. Lets you introduce a whole bunch of new kinds of creatures. Lets you put a whole kind of new, towns and villages with new architectures and stuff. That's fun to explore. Leave that kind of stuff open. You don't have to have every biome and every faction and everything all in your base game. Some of them can just be referred to. Like, this is wine from the snow country, but you don't have the snow country in your game. I guess the thing I'm trying to say here is games should be fun, and mysteries are fun. Don't go crazy. You do need to solve some mysteries that come up in your game, and you need to solve them completely. If you don't, you will frustrate players. But you can also solve most of a mystery and leave like a loose end. Where did the villain go? What was that item for? You wrapped up everything that was going on, but there's a loose end like that the game's never going to clearly explain to you. And just remember this. If you tell everything, players will want nothing. So if you're making your game, it's okay to leave some mystery in it for later exploration, or even not for exploration at all. Just leave a little mystery in there. It'll be good for you. People will like it. And that's all I want to say.